I'm here with Carol Morley, director of the new movie Out of Blue, which is going to be screened at the Virgin Media Film Festival tonight. Carol, thanks very much for joining me.
No problem.
This film is loosely based on a book by Martin Ames. When you're adapting somebody else's work, do you find that to be a collaborative process, or do you think this is a new medium, this is my version of it now, I'm going to do my own thing now?
Well, it's a great question. At the beginning, I'd never adapted a book before, so it was a real it's a real process of learning, but it did feel like a collaboration. And even though I'd never met Martin Ames, I felt like I was collaborating with his ideas. And then at a certain point it became mine, and I'd forgotten he'd written it, to be blunt, because I never wanted to make a film that was a description of the book, so you're really looking for your way in and to bring it to life in a particular way that feels right. But it did feel like a collaboration, albeit one where he wasn't present in person.
This film kind of explores the theme, and something that I think has kind of been prevalent throughout your work, of the idea of the person that you think you are, the person people think you are, and then the person you actually are. What about that? Yeah. I don't know whether I've completely misread all of your work, or is that something that's...
I think I spend my life wondering about other people and what they're thinking and what's really going on. And in this day of social media where many people have access to publishing their own lives, they present themselves. So it's sort of a human thing to present in a certain way. And so I'm completely fascinated with this idea that we are one person to other people, one people to ourselves, and then this idea that there's the real us floating about somewhere. So those three things I think I do sort of explore in all the films that I do.
It's curious that you said about the social media aspect. I recently rewatched Dreams of a Life, which I absolutely love, but I hadn't watched it since it was released, and the rise of social media now, and watching it through that prism. Do you think something like that could happen now, or do you think there's more chance of that happening now?
I think with Joyce Vincent, when she died, it was 2006, and the idea in 2006 of somebody being in a busy metropolitan area like London and not being discovered for 3 years is like, it's unbelievable. But when I made that film, I realized as it went on and it was released that there were more and more stories like that, and maybe not being left for 3 years, but more people dying alone, not being discovered for a few weeks. And then now with social media, because then people were like, oh, well, there's social media now, and it wouldn't happen if Joyce was on Facebook. But you think, well, actually, there's a lot of people have a lot of friends on Facebook. It can run into hundreds, thousands. And then are you really aware of all those people that you're connected to? So the rise of social media, I'm not sure would mean that you would notice someone had gone and disappeared in plain sight. I don't know if you notice people have fallen through the cracks. Yeah, so I'm not sure really, but I'm not sure it's any different.
You did, and watching that was the thought I was having. It was kind of to watch it now through the prism of something like Netflix, where you have things like Making a Murder, and you have these like cultural phenomena. It's kind of easy to imagine like there'd be things like Team Martin now if this was released on Netflix this year. This is funny. This is what was going through my head watching that. This is only your third feature, and you've put together just an incredible cast: Patricia Clarkson, James Caan, Toby Jones, all either Oscar winners or Oscar nominees.
Yeah.
When you're directing, is there any self-doubt in your mind, or are you ever second-guessing yourself, maybe directing their performances? Is there ever any intimidation of them telling Sonny Corleone what to do here?
I think that in a way, especially because I've written it, they are, as I see them as my characters. So I'm not really seeing James Caan, I'm seeing Colonel Tom Rotwell. I'm not really seeing Patricia Clarkson, I'm seeing Mike. So I think because I approach it from this perspective of we're in the world of the film and the world of the story, I don't really think about it. I think about it before and after. But, like Jackie Weaver, to me, I mean, she's incredible, and she is ultimately Miriam in the story. She's the mother. So in my my mind, she's the person I've been creating as I've been writing it. And Patricia Clarkson is Mike, the detective that, you know, takes us through the story. You know what it's like? It's akin to when I was a kid and I had some threadbare rabbits and dolls, and they became my little characters that I was playing with. And that, even though it's James Caan, and in the breaks he's talking about knowing, you know, all these famous actors and has his Marlon Brando stories, in a way they're still my little dolls, and I'm play acting with them. I know that sounds strange, but that's how I approach it. Otherwise it would be too intimidating to think I'm one person away from Marlon Brando, or, you know, Patricia Clarkson is, you know, such an incredible actress, and, you know, they're all, you know, also sort of top of their game in their field. But you have to you can't think like that, otherwise I would be intimidated.
Jackie, she was absolutely fantastic. There's something very, I know directors don't like their work being compared. There was something very Twin Peaks or very Lynchian about her as well, and also something Don't Look Now was also a film that sprung to mind. I was very surprised to see that the producer in the film is actually the son of the director of Don't Look Now. How did that come about?
Yeah, so Nick Rogue is the father of Luke Rogue, who produced with Caan, and Luke's dad Nick had always wanted to turn Night Train, the Martin Amis book, into a film, which Out of Blue is based on, as you know. So his dad hadn't managed to make it happen for one reason or another, and his dad gave Luke the blessing to pass it on to me as something they had optioned. So I began to that's how it began to be part of my consciousness. I never saw anything Nick Rogue had done with it, but, you know, I'm a great admirer of his work, and he just made so many films that have been so part of my mind and heart. So it was so exciting to take on something he'd always wanted to do. And the film is dedicated to Nick Rogue as well, by the way.
Nice. The film obviously is going to be screened at the Virgin Media Festival.
Yes.
I just made me think of this because I've been trying to get a hold of The Alcohol Year since I read your book 7 Miles Out, and I can't get it anywhere. And
so The Alcohol Years is going to become available soon on the BFI player.
Oh, nice.
So the BFI player, I think the BFI, the British Film Institute player, and 7 Miles Out, I think it's on Amazon.
Yeah, I've read 7 Miles Out. After reading that, I was trying to find the documentary.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it will become available, The Alcohol Years. That is my scurrilous past in Manchester, for those that don't know.
Just on that, and obviously not being able to get a hold of that, how important do you think things like the Virgin Media, how the festival are for films like Out of Blue or films like The Falling?
Yeah, I mean, the Dublin Film Festival it's one of the ones that you want to be in, and that exposure it gives a film, the audiences it brings to a film, is very important in the film festival calendar. Film festivals are very, very important to independent films, and they give it such a they give your film such a platform. My last film, The Falling, was here. Dreams of a Life was here, and now this film, Out of Blue. And because obviously big Hollywood films have massive budgets for marketing their films, and with independent films you don't get that. So a festival, a platform, is crucial, and one like Dublin is a dream, and it's always a dream to attend as well, because it's just fantastically engaged audiences.
You're saying there kind of show business essentially is more business than show right now. Like things like Out of Blue, like you're taking chances in films. I kind of think of people like Richard Kelly, who had that huge hit with Donnie Darko, and then had Southland Tales, and then hasn't made a film in 10 years. Yeah. Do you think that the tide is kind of shifting, and things like the festival scene or things like Netflix are where people are going to have to go for more creative story and substance films, as opposed to trying to fight for real estate at the box office with the likes of the Avengers?
I know. I mean, what's great is that you do. There are still alive and kicking many independent cinemas, and also in the UK and Ireland, and also there are Out of Blue is being distributed with Picture House, who are really committed to bringing films to audiences. I love seeing a film at the cinema because you are with other people. I can still call it the pictures. You're with other people, and it's a night out or an afternoon out. So I love going to the pictures because it is like where you connect to people. So while it's brilliant that we can get access now to so many films from the past past and currently, cinema is still really, really beautiful way to see a film, and what a film, how you want to first see a film. Like Roma, if you see it in the cinema, it's got the sound and you hear it behind you and all the way around you. If you're living in a rural place or somewhere, or you can't get out, it's fantastic, you can see it on Netflix. But I just think it's great that cinema continues and people see it very importantly as a social event, as well as, you know, just watching and consuming. But all the things that are going on means, I think, the kind of industry needs films, you know, because they've got to show stuff, they've got to play stuff. So that's great too, and hopefully we'll make more independent films happen because there's a place to show them, you know.
You'd said there just about the Oscars, and of course there was no female directors again this year. I came across a stat that only 7% of directors in the last 20 years for major films are female.
Yeah.
That said, the year before last, the top 3 grossing films were all female-led. Do you think that with things like Time's Up and the Me Too movement, do you think enough has been done to kind of stem the tide here? Or do you think that things like inclusion waivers, they're going to need to be mandatory by studios going forward?
I mean, it's a complicated one. At the beginning of cinema, 7% of women were directors. And so you think it's in all that time, in over 100 years, it's not changed. The number has not changed. So you've got to wonder about that. And I think it really reflects the world that we inhabit, you know. And I think that women have often ended up making documentaries because in that way you can start a film without huge finance. They cost less money. So I think there's probably a lot of women out there involved in film, and always has been. I'm always a bit wary of box ticking because it worries me about what that means and what happens. But it's important that in all different ways there are ways forward and people, you know. But I think the most important one would be to take stories seriously, you know, stories about women. They're not relegated to, oh well, that doesn't need enough, you know, a budget, or no one would want to see it. And I think that often happens with stories that are seen as domestic, or and on the other hand, it's important to see that women too want to direct blockbusting, you know, big films, you know. So that's probably in a studio sense is important that they do that. But I think you just give women money to make films. Any marginalised people, give them money to make films. You'll get great stories. We're depriving audiences.
And there is that kind of perception as well. I'm sure you're familiar with Laura Mulvey, that the male gaze, where kind of female audiences are conditioned to see through the eyes of the male protagonist, and it doesn't really work vice versa. I had to give Helen O'Hara credit on that for pointing me in the direction of that. But with things like Crazy Rich Asians or Black Panther, to give the kind of the big budget examples, there is an audience there for that. Do you think there's, you know, you're saying without kind of making things to be box ticking, what do you think can be done to, you know, give people like yourself the money to make films like Out of the Blue or like The Falling?
Well, I think it's really to respect audiences, that audiences will go and see a variety of things, and that people are hungry for that. And I think, you know, when Moonlight was made, Barry Jenkins, he wasn't commissioned to make that. He wasn't given loads of money to make that necessarily. It wasn't expected to be like an Oscar frontrunner. And you know, and then this film by with a large, you know, black cast, you know, and made by people from the community that are often underrepresented, it stormed it. So I think that's proof. And there are, you know, that there are people hungry for to see films from all different walks of life, and that, you know, black isn't. It's a mainstream, you know, so it's like the fact that largely white male films have dominated cinema is crazy, you know, it's just strange. So I think that but what you need, I think what you need is just enough people to rally around the idea that audiences are smart, audiences want a lot of different things, because otherwise we're just depriving audiences, I think, of seeing work that means something to them, and they might see their lives in it, that they might see themselves in it, or they might see other people they're not aware of in it. But it's very, very important. But I'm not sure, you know, my contribution is to just forge ahead and put all my efforts into making my films, and that's what I do, and I'll fight to make them, and know that even if my films aren't political in their content, to make a film is politics, because you're creating ideology by default.
Finally, your next project is going to be about Audrey.
Amen.
Even the title itself is insane.
This is going to be the Audrey Amis film. Well, it's called Typist Artist Pirate King, which is how she described herself. And she was diagnosed in her 20s with paranoid schizophrenia. That was in the 1950s. So she entered virtually an asylum world, you know, and then became a revolving psychiatric patient entire life, keeping on with her art and everything like that. And so I see it, ultimately, it will be a film. A biopic, because it's a drama that is going to, it will be challenging the very nature of the biopic.
Nice. She's certainly not doing things by convention again.
Yeah. So it'll question the biopic by the way she in life questioned her reality and who she was. So that's how it's going to do it. And I'm very excited about the next one. Yeah.
When are you looking to start shooting that?
Well, I'm writing it at the moment, so I always go, I want to shoot it at the end of this year or the beginning of next year, but we will see. Again, it'll be about raising the money for it.
Yeah. Best luck with that. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do next with that, and I absolutely loved Out of Blue, I have to say.
That's so exciting to hear. Thank you for loving it.
Thanks a lot, and best of luck with the screening tonight.
All right, and thank you for your tweets. You see, social media is important to independent film and to lots of things. We can't just diss it.
I appreciate it. Absolute pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much.
Bye, darling.
Have a good day.
Thank you.